What's up, everybody? Extra Million here once again with Totally Sick Fallout New Vegas Edition. And in this episode, we've saved the most difficult for last. We're going to tackle the game's final DLC, Lonesome Road. Just like the beginning of pretty much every episode, we will start off by heading back to the abandoned Brotherhood of Steel bunker to collect all of our tokens so that we can get some more supplies, and then deposit all the useless crap that we picked up during Old World Blues. And then we're going to head to the town of Prim, after which we will make our way west. We're going to be making our way into an area known as the Divide. And the reason that we're doing that is because we received a transmission from a guy named Ulysses. Now, Ulysses is like this super badass who could probably actually be the main character of another Fallout game. He has ties to pretty much every other area and character throughout Fallout New Vegas' history. He's met Elijah from Dead Money. He hung out with Dr. Mobius in the Think Tank from Old World Blues. He hung out in most of the areas from Honest Hearts. He was actually a member of Caesar's Legion, just like Joshua Graham from Honest Hearts. But basically, the history that you have with him is sometime before the events of Fallout New Vegas. Ulysses was like a really high-ranking member of Caesar's Legion, and he sort of became disillusioned with Caesar and didn't really want to kill people anymore, so he just sort of went off on his own and had all of his own adventures, and eventually wound up in an area called the Divide, which has a bunch of cool technology and military bases, and he sort of just hung out there and made that his home. Meanwhile, elsewhere, the New California Republic, or the NCR, was engaged in a war with a bunch of dudes called the Enclave. The Enclave are essentially the rebirth or the continuation of the pre-war version of the United States government. So they're like the old guys who were there before the war, or their sons and daughters, and basically a continuation of that government. The NCR wins the war, and while they're looking through all of the Enclave's things, they come across a mysterious package full of cool technology, but they don't know what it does. They recognize the markings on it, and the markings signify that it belongs in the Divide. So they hire a courier to deliver the package there. That courier happens to be the player character, the courier. So the courier takes the package to here, the Divide, and then leaves. Unbeknownst to them, the package happens to be a radio transmitter which activates most of the nuclear warheads in the Divide, which completely blows the place to smithereens, which makes it look like it does now. Ulysses barely survives thanks to a lot of these medical iBots, one of which you'll see here, which is actually the Lonesome Road version of Eddie. He'll be our companion that we have to use here. Luckily, you can just usually tell him to stay put, and he'll just stay far back, and then when it's necessary, he'll teleport directly to where you are and then do story stuff. So it keeps in my thing where I don't use any companions, while still satisfying the gameplay aspects. So anyway, after the area gets completely blown to pieces, Ulysses is understandably pissed. So now he's mad at everybody. He's mad at the courier, he's mad at the NCR, he's mad at Caesar's Legion, he's pretty much just mad at the world. While he's just sort of hanging out in the Divide, figuring out what he's going to do, he gets a message from Robert House, the guy we met in New Vegas. House wants him to come to Prim so that he can be one of the couriers to transport the Platinum Chip. 5 other people will be decoys, and Ulysses will be Courier 6, the one who actually has the Platinum Chip. Ulysses gets to Prim, and then sees that us, the main character, the courier, his name is on the list of couriers to be decoys. So Ulysses declines to be the Courier 6, and another courier is found, and then you, the player character, become the new Courier 6. And then, of course, that sets in motion the events of the beginning of the game, where we transport the platinum chip, Benny finds us and shoots us in the head and takes it, and then yada yada yada, the rest of the game happens. And then we'll conclude that mission after Lonesome Road. So then, basically, you receive a message from Ulysses that's like, hey, I'm in the Divide, I'm super pissed at you, and I have a bunch of nuclear missiles that are aimed at various parts of the world to blow people away. Come stop me if you can. This DLC is also the shortest of all of the DLCs, and unlike the rest of them, for the first time, you can leave the Divide whenever you want, so which I heavily encourage, because this is extremely difficult with all the robots and the new enemy types that you'll see. It's highly encouraged to just leave the Divide whenever you can, whenever you're on the overworld, so you can fast travel. To go leave, heal, repair your armor and your weapons, and then just come back and fast travel back to the latest area that you got to, which you'll actually see me do several times, because you'll notice that there will be several cuts where the time of day and my position will change slightly. And that indicates that I traveled to the overworld and then came back. So we made it through the silo, and we're going to level up here in just a second. But now we have to go find Ulysses. The first thing we have to do is, there's all these nuclear warheads scattered around everywhere. You can see one that's glowing right there to my right. It's also irradiating me, as you can see at the top of the screen there. We have to go find a laser detonator that will detonate them and get them out of our way. There are 30 of them, I believe, in the game, but you only really have to detonate the ones that are directly in your path that clear some rubble. The rest of them are just for completion, or a trophy, I guess, or an achievement if you were playing on Steam or consoles. So these guys are the main enemies that the main new enemies that you'll see, called the Marked Men. They're basically irradiated ghouls who have super powerful weapons, and they take a shitload of damage. And they come in all various types. They have, melee weapons, sniper rifles, regular assault rifles, grenades. Some of the more annoying ones will have flare guns, and they'll catch you on fire. The other new type of enemy is... that guy actually has a flare gun right there. The other new type of enemy is a creature enemy called a tunneler. And we actually have a perk that will do damage to tunnelers. I believe it's the Abomination perk. Or Purifier is the one that destroys Abomination-type enemies. Tunnelers are basically slightly less powerful versions of Deathclaws. There's different variations. There's the hulking tunneler, which is the big strong one. There's the venomous one, which is the small fast one that can poison you if I didn't have that perk from Old World Blues that makes me immune to poison. And then later on in the level, there's one enemy called the Tunneler Queen, which is about as strong as a Deathclaw. That guy had a rocket launcher called the I believe it's the Red Glare, I think. It does a ton of damage. So here we'll pick up the laser detonator. And we'll equip that. Then we'll detonate one of the nuclear weapons. And as soon as you pick this up, a bunch of dudes spawn on the ground, so you'll kind of want to stay up here for now. And then we'll slowly make our way down and skip around the corner of the building so we don't have to fight them since they don't actually follow you. And then in the next area, there's another nuke that we have to detonate, but we have to lure a few guys out first, because we can't... most of these guys will not usually engage you in melee range or in melee combat, so running out into the middle of them is kind of suicide, especially since you have to stop periodically to detonate one of these warheads, so while you're doing that, you're sort of a sitting duck. The last major regular enemy type that we'll find is actually an enemy that you can also find in regular New Vegas, which is the Deathclaw, which I've talked about very briefly. I think I mentioned one in the very first episode, but we haven't actually seen or interacted with them yet. The Deathclaws are pretty much the toughest enemy in the game, as like a regular enemy. So besides bosses, they're like the toughest enemies in the game. Besides like Cazadors, you really don't want to run into them. They're extremely fast. They're really strong. Like even at full health right now, I think you'll see in a few minutes once I actually meet one. I have medics, which, as you know, reduces damage by 25%, and one hit from them at full health takes half my health off. And they're ridiculously fast, so they're definitely not something that you want to trifle with. At least not yet, until I reach level 30, when all challenge in the game just sort of drops out the bottom and goes out the window. So we'll dodge all these flares and make it past all these guys. In this tunnel, the collapse tunnel, is where you'll first be introduced to the tunneler enemies.
Grant actually went to...
The Divide is also home to two of the most powerful bosses in the entire game. One of them is obviously Ulysses, and then the other one is a unique super Deathclaw called Rawr, R-A-W-R. And I'll talk more about him once I actually get close to the area that he's at. So in this area, you pretty much just make your way past all of these tunneler enemies. They come out of those little holes in the ground. So we're almost to the end of this little tunnel area here, and once we get out, we'll be up on a high road, or basically like a highway. This area is extremely difficult because you have to fight 4 Deathclaws to get out of this area, and we don't really have the means necessary to fight them without a bit of luck on our side. Basically, the way that we're going to defeat them is we're going to use a milder version of an ability we get once we get to level 30. There's a drug in the game called Turbo, and what it does is it slows down basically anything that has to do with the physics engine of the game, while the player character moves in real time. Now, the benefit to this is that while things like grenades or bullets are slowed down, which wouldn't really provide you with that much of a tactical advantage, things like melee and unarmed weapons still move at regular speed, which basically, as soon as you take Turbo, you turn into like the Flash with a sword. So when we get near a Deathclaw, we'll pop some Turbo and circle around it and then just slash it to death. That's pretty much the only way that I can take them out, because engaging them in real-time combat, or even inside of VATS, is like suicidal. You may notice that there's a guy in the distance there. And if you can't see him now, you'll definitely know that you'll definitely know that he's there in just a second. There you go, 50 XP. So he got blown up by that nuke. Speaking of Turbo, there is one main disadvantage, and its huge drawback is that not only does it only last for about 3 seconds, or 6 seconds since we have Chemist, since that Chemist perk that we got in Old World Blues doubles the active time of all chems. Its biggest drawback is that it is highly addictive. So even using it just once can make you addicted to it. Luckily, we don't get addicted here, but there's a very high chance that it'll happen. And when you become addicted, your stats go way down, and it's one of the only addictions that doesn't go away. It's almost permanent. I don't actually remember if you can even get rid of it with Dr. Usanagi. But as you can see, it's extremely powerful, since it allowed me to basically just run up to those Deathclaws and wipe them out. Unfortunately, it wears off right here, and oof. You take a big hit there. Now, I do have another dose of turbo, but I don't want to chance it on this last Deathclaw. Luckily, he tries to jump over these concrete medians or barriers here, and gets popped into the air by Super Slam, and then just sort of slams into the ground, and then I kill him. Kill him while he's trying to get up. Now, when I get to level 30, I will get basically the most important ability or the most important perk I will receive in this playthrough. It's an ability called Implant GRX. And since they raised the level cap with all the DLC to level 50, they added a second rank of Implant GRX, so I'll take that at level 32. Implant GRX, which is actually named after the GRX car from an episode of Speed Racer. Oh yeah, watch out for those little mines there. That'll definitely kill you. Implant GRX gives you access to a non-addictive 24-hour replenishing dosage of turbo. The first rank that you can get at level 30 gives you 5 doses. So you can use it 5 times a day, and each dose lasts for 2 seconds. Or basically twice as long with Chemist, and each dose is cumulative, meaning you can take all 5 doses at once. So without Chemist, that would be 10 seconds of slowdown, or 20 seconds with Chemist. Rank 2 that I take at level 32 gives you 10 doses, and they each last 3 seconds. So that would be 30 seconds without Chemist, or 60 seconds, or a full minute of slow motion with Chemist. As you can imagine, this is like ridiculously overpowered, being able to last a full minute of this like bullet time where you're just circling enemies and slashing the shit out of them. And actually there's another perk that we'll get in the next video after we beat Lonesome Road that extends the time of all chems even further. Not that it's really all that necessary. So yeah, the non-addictive turbo whenever you want it, and all you have to do is wait for 24 hours, is like super OP. So I said that this DLC contains pretty much all the toughest enemies in the game, except for a few other areas, but you'll see that even that doesn't matter against the power of Implant GRX, simply because all melee and unarmed weapons move in real time. So this area is a little weird. What's supposed to happen is you kill these tunnelers that are on this little lift, and then the lift is supposed to go down while all these explosions are happening, while you're going to the bottom of the missile silo. And what's supposed to happen is tunnelers will appear on the sides of the elevator and they'll leap into the middle, or sometimes they'll just sort of spawn in the middle because the game is lazy. And that's why I'm sort of just walking in a circle, swinging around like crazy. But for some reason, what happens is the tunnelers spawn, and then the explosions instantly kill them, or they just instantly die. This is the only time that this had happened to me, and all the times that I recorded this section, so I end up not actually fighting anyone, and they just instantly get killed for me. I'm not entirely sure how I did it, or if I could even trigger it again, but, you know, whatever, we'll take what we can get. Oh, you may have noticed that the last time that I leveled up, I slightly leveled up my survival skill to level 50. Once you have a survival of level 50, you can use certain abilities you can use certain components at a campfire, and you can make a item called Rushing Water, which was added with the Lonesome Road DLC, which increases your attack speed. Now, our attack speed is already increased with Slayer, and the fact that the Gehenna and the weapon that we'll get as our final weapon in this DLC is pretty fast anyway. But with Implant GRX and Rushing Water, you'll just attack like unbelievably fast. I don't use any Rushing Water in this video, but, you know, it never hurts to have some just in case. So we get off the elevator and we'll travel through this little apartment complex and take out some more tunnelers. So we make it to the top of this building, the Sunstone Tower, and then we have to make it basically all the way to the bottom. Now at the bottom are a ton of dudes, 3 of which we can kill right here with the nuclear weapon right here. Now you'll notice that the XP comes up and it only says 100. That's because I only killed 2 of the 3. So the other one is on his way up now and he's kind of pissed. Luckily, the one that it didn't kill was like a melee guy, so he doesn't actually shoot at me until he gets right next to me. Or he doesn't engage until he's right next to me. There he is.
Dad, hey.
EDE interrupts me right before I'm about to fight him. But he's easy enough to kill. Now when you head to the bottom here, just to ahead of me right now are 4 guys that will really mess you up if you don't know that they're there or how to fight them. First of all, you want to kill these mole rats. If you don't kill them, then you can't rest at the little bed that's inside this building and not have to use any stim packs. Because it'll say, oh, the enemies are too close to you. You can't rest while an enemy is nearby. So basically just hang out in this little area right here. It protects you from fire from all sides except the front, obviously. And then just wait for a guy to come around the corner and then just waste him. You don't want to get out too far, though, because about 20 feet in front of you is a mine. And if you start... And the mines are kind of difficult to see with all this stuff going on, so if you start running around out there, you'll just blow yourself up. I actually do detonate the mine by getting a little too close to it on the last guy, but luckily I'm in VATS while I'm fighting him, and while you're in VATS, while it's doing the cinematic attacking stuff, you only take 75% of an attack's damage, so it doesn't actually kill me, thankfully. It just cripples me. And blasts this guy's body. Yeah, so that did a little more than half my health, so if I hadn't been in VATS, that probably would have killed me. It would be easier to just run past all these guys, but unfortunately, the nuke that you have to detonate to get past them is right here, and they would basically be shooting at you the whole time, and you can't see the nuke until you get basically right up to it. Straight ahead of you are even more marked men, but you can just sort of ignore them. There's nothing really necessary to get in the building that they're in. Further up here, you'll detonate another nuclear warhead, and you'll go into a cave and start a little quest called the Tunnelers. This area is absolutely filled with tunnelers, and is the location of the Tunneler Queen. Now, you can fight her if you want, but I just pop a bunch of Implant GRX and run past them all while they're trying to pop out of their little holes. So right now I've basically got about 20 seconds of slow-mo that I can use to kill some of these guys and then hopefully get through this area before it wears off. Now, the next area that I'm going to is the location of Rar, who's the basically the giant, unique, ultra-powerful super boss, Deathclaw, that I mentioned earlier. He's basically the strongest enemy in the game. He has the second highest amount of HP in the entire game, second only to that giant robot scorpion from Old World Blues. Basically, even if you have like the most powerful armor in the game, if you're level 50, if you have maxed out endurance, the highest HP, yada yada yada, all that stuff, he can still kill you in like 2 or 3 hits, and he's really fast, so he most likely will. Also with this section, Ulysses contacts you through Eddie, and does a command where Eddie flies away because he has to obey Ulysses. So you lose Eddie, not that we really needed him anyway. Level up again, level up my medicine skill so that now that's maxed out, so I can do maximum healing with stim packs and other healing items. You may notice the time of day has changed drastically from when I just leveled up. That's because I fast traveled back to the beginning, repaired all of my stuff, and then came back and rested for 24 hours so that I could get all my implant GRX back. So I gotta use 2 of them here and take out these Deathclaws, because otherwise they'll follow you into the area where you fight Rar. One thing to note about Rar is that he also cannot be knocked down by most normal means, like the Ranger Takedown or Super Slam. One of the only ways to knock him down is if you have the anti-material sniper rifle with explosive rounds. He can be driven off with flares or flashbangs, which I guess would be useful if we were using those. But all we're going to do is wait till he appears, then pop the rest of our implant GRX and circle around behind him and then just wail on him. Now, even though he is slowed down, if he does hit me, he will kill me in 1 hit. So I have to be careful not to get tagged by his arm. So yeah, there you go. Most powerful enemy in the game, not so tough. Now, if I were fighting him in real time, normally I would obviously stand no chance. It'd be impossible, or at least extremely difficult. So I search his body, and he has a unique claw that you can actually turn into an item, which we will turn into the final weapon that we will use as our ultimate weapon throughout the rest of the game. The weapon is actually called Fist of Rar, but if you have the Wild Wasteland trait like I do, it is known as the Fist of the North Rar, which is obviously a play on the anime Fist of the North Star. To wield this weapon, you have to have a maxed out unarmed skill of 100 and a strength of 6, which we do. The thing's base damage is only 50, which is about the same as the unpyromaniac enhanced damage of the shish kebab. But its real strength lies in all of its all the extra stuff that it has. When you get a critical hit, the critical hit adds 75 damage to the 50, and it contains bonuses to critical damage, it contains bonuses to getting a critical hit, or to critical chance, and it does double damage to limbs. So, currently, since I have better criticals, that perk, that gives me 50% more damage every time I get a critical hit. Currently, every time I get a critical hit, which is pretty much going to be all the time right now, I do a little over 160 damage per swing, and I can swing this thing about 3 times a second. Faster if I have rushing water. Not that it really matters, because as soon as I pop Implant GRX, I can just swing away and completely demolish people. The best thing about it, though, is that unlike the Gehenna, it counts as a fist weapon. or an unarmed weapon, meaning I can use my moveset that I haven't been able to use for quite some time now. You know, the uppercuts and the cross and the, body blows and all that kind of stuff. This DLC is also where I'll get the final armor that I'll wear in the game. So once I complete this, I'll have all the final equipment that I'll have to use throughout the rest of the game. Not that it really matters, once again, I said that again, but it really doesn't, because I could probably run through the rest of the game naked and just use Implant GRX and no one could ever touch me. This area is actually, like, super difficult, with all the enemies that can, like, snipe at you, and a lot of them can turn invisible. So basically what I just did is I used all of my Implant GRX and then just run through the area as fast as possible. I take a shortcut by hopping up the geometry of this little ridge here. As you can see, I'm being shot at by that sniper rifle guy. Up ahead is an area that's laced with mines. If you just keep running straight and don't pay any attention to them, you'll just barely make it out of the explosion range, and I took a little damage there. And Implant GRX will run out just as you get to these guys and could kill them. So there you go, you can see the power of Fist of the North Roar. So we're finally at Ulysses' temple, ready to go face against him. Now, we would like to be level 32, but as you can see, we just barely missed out on enough experience to get level 32 so that we can get rank 2 of Implant GRX. So there's a couple enemies in here that we can use to boost that. We'll kill this sentry bot first. And then in the next room, there's another sentry bot and 2 turrets that we can take out. And it'll give us just barely enough experience to get level 32. Which, coincidentally, since we get Implant GRX right then, it'll negate having to wait for 24 hours for it to replenish itself. Once you make it into the area with Ulysses, a bunch of things happen. You can either convince him not to set off any of the nukes, or you can do what I'm going to do, which is much easier, which is to just fight him. Ulysses is one of the other most powerful enemies in the entire game. He's the only human character with more than 1,000 HP, and if you were to use the console to look at his special stats, like strength, perception, endurance, yada yada yada, he has all 10s, so his stats are maxed out. He's also 15% faster than any other character in the game, and he can't be knocked down at all, period, by anything. But yeah, he just has a ton of health, he's super tough, he can also turn invisible with a stealth boy, and he has these little eyebots that fly around and can attack you as well. He himself is not, like, super strong as far as, like, his attacks, because he doesn't have a gun. He has a weapon called Old Glory, which is a melee weapon. So what we're going to do is just pop all 10 doses of Implant GRX, and then just run up and punch the crap out of him. So there you go, dead. Toughest enemy in the game, toast. Now, while we were fighting him, behind us, the area was infiltrated by marked men. And if you talk to Ulysses, you can actually get him to help you fight these guys. Or you'll have to just kill them after you take care of him. Now, each time one of them dies, they'll explode in this, like, green explosion. So if you're wondering why everything keeps exploding, then that's why. So because I have Chemist and 10 doses of Implant GRX, I have a full minute of slow motion, so I have more than enough time to deal with all of these guys. As you can see, I'm killing them right as they spawn. So, yeah, this is it. This is the end of the DLC. Since I killed Ulysses, I actually have a choice that I can make, and that's I can either stop the nuclear launch from happening, or I can decide to launch it myself. and you can even decide what targets you want it to go to. I decide to launch the nuclear weapons at both the NCR and Caesar's Legion, not just because I'm a dick, but because launching one at the NCR and one at the Legion opens up 2 optional areas, one for each of those decisions. So if you decide to launch it at both, you get access to both of those secret areas. There's not really anything I need in them, it's just nice to have access to them. There's some really tough guys in each of those secret areas as well. So yeah, that's pretty much it. You just escape and you just blew everything up, Planet of the Apes style.
They blew up the lands west.
Also, since we didn't actually rescue the Lonesome Road Eddie Ibot, and we didn't do any of his side quests, we get the Lonesome Road perk.
It is something.
Which, as long as you have no companions, meaning they have to be dismissed, they can't just be waiting for you. You have to have no active companions. You gain an extra 10% damage. Just like overall, you just do 10% more damage if you have no active companions. Also, the NCR and the Legion now hate our guts because we bombed them. And we get a bunch of cool stuff in this footlocker from Ulysses. And we also get an extra special point that we can use, which we will put into our strength just to make ourselves that much stronger, because we don't really have anything else to do with it. And then we level up one more time, and that is pretty much it, and I will see you guys next time.